Warriors, red circles of fire is straight up lit. So don't just like, subscribe, don't just subscribe, hit notify!
Chapter 23. Blood in the Water. It was easy to lose one's way in the seemingly endless catacombs beneath the hidden temple sanctuary of the Sisters of Oto-Mani, especially for a newly initiated priestess. Sister Tandania was the ancient order's newest member. She was not lost, but she was deeply confused. She could not understand why High Priestess Kalla-Sonora appeared so unconcerned by the spider vision the sisterhood had recently witnessed. In it, the exiled monarch Oto-Mani and his companion, Chief Steward Diodi, had been condemned to death by a foreign heathen court. How could Kalla-Sonora remain so light-hearted after seeing their sovereign sentenced to die? Tandania hurried through one of the catacombs' winding passageways until she caught up with the High Priestess.
Mother Kalla-Sonora,
She began hesitantly.
I fear the sovereign will be executed by the foreign people we saw in the spider vision. Why are you not worried?
Kalla-Sonora placed a reassuring arm around the young woman's shoulders.
Sister Tandania, I understand your fear, but remember the words of our sisterhood's codex. We must see with our spirits, not with our eyes. Everything is proceeding according to plan. Sovereign Oto-Mani and Chief Steward Diodi must suffer death for the prophecy to be fulfilled.
She paused and looked knowingly at the young priestess.
But, my child, recall another of our teachings. Not all deaths are the same.
The answer did little to reassure Tandania, nor did she fully understand it. Yet she had already summoned every measure of courage she possessed simply to question the venerated High Priestess. For the moment, she decided not to press further.
Yes, Mother Kalla-Sonora.
She replied. The old woman smiled and gave her a playful wink.
Now, to further the fulfillment of the prophecy, I need you to deliver an unpleasant message.
Of course, Most Reverend One.
Uhsa-Lata, you demon-damned prick! Ko-Toure, you scheming bastard!
High Lord Ko-Toure of West Idari province glared in horror and anger at the wooden box before him. He had sent Uhsa-Lata a chest of fire gold in a plea for peace, hoping to prevent a needless war with the Supreme Commander, Lord Regent Ko-Toure, and the royal province. His message had been simple.
Milord, Sovereign Oto-Mani is not our prisoner. He is not even in West Idari. How can I prove that a missing monarch is not here? Listen to reason.
Their only reply was the severed head of Ko-Toure's messenger that was now in the box before him. Ko-Toure presumed he knew these conniving men's ulterior motives. Ko-Toure had unleashed the bloodthirsty Uhsa-Lata upon West Idari to crush anyone who questioned their right to rule in the sovereign's absence. They meant to sack the prosperous province, seize its fire gold treasury, and use the wealth to repay the Fire Throne's debts to the other noble houses. That promise of gold had purchased the quiescence of the other high lords in the Privy Council.
Lying, greedy cowards, all of them!
Ko-Toure slammed the box shut and turned to his first minister.
Order the commanders to prepare the army. At once.
Yes, my lord. Ko-Toure was mostly right. Ko-Toure had approved Uhsa-Lata's campaign against the falsely accused West Idari province, and the war was indeed part of a larger political scheme. But Ko-Toure cared less about the province's gold than eliminating dangerous rivals. He thought he already eliminated Oto-Mani through conspiring with Tulu and the Makani. He awaited confirmation. The rest of his plan was simple. Uhsa-Lata would go to war against Ko-Toure, removing the threat of the most rebellious noble house while drawing the powerful general away from the palace. At first, Ko-Toure had resisted the campaign. Then he saw its value. Uhsa-Lata would be far from court, leaving Ko-Toure with greater control over the Fire Throne, and the general might even die in battle. So the Lord Regent granted his request. It was the day of the royal mace ceremony, the ancient rite by which Rakana's ruler granted a general the Fire Throne's authority to wage war. In a lesser throne room, Ko-Toure stood resplendent in orange robes of state and presented Uhsa-Lata with a short silver mace crowned by an eagle.
In the name of Sovereign Oto-Mani, 33rd of his name, I grant you the realm's blessing to subdue the heretical West Idari province. May Mother Oto-Ma bring you victory and guide you to our beloved sovereign.
Uhsa-Lata met Ko-Toure's unctuous smile with a stony stare.
So be it.
Uhsa-Lata took the mace without bowing. Ko-Toure's smile tightened, Had he miscalculated? As the general turned to leave, the Lord Regent called after him.
General, one more thing. Leave West Idari intact. No sacking the capital. The realm needs its resources.
Uhsa-Lata stiffened. Did Ko-Toure take him for a fool? Still, out of respect for the Fire Throne, he answered through clenched teeth.
Yes, Lord Regent.
Uhsa-Lata distrusted every move Ko-Toure made. They were collaborators in the grand deception that sovereign Oto-Mani had been kidnapped and hidden somewhere in West Idari. Yet Ko-Toure never told Uhsa-Lata the full truth. The Lord Regent claimed that Oto-Mani, Diodi, and the pregnant Olaria had fled into the sacred zone, where he had sent men to retrieve them. In reality, Ko-Toure had conspired with Tulu to have Oto-Mani and Diodi executed. Only Olaria, mother of the heir, was meant to return. Uhsa-Lata did not know the details, but he understood Ko-Toure's ambition. With Oto-Mani gone and the infant heir under his control, Ko-Toure could remain regent for decades, or seize the Fire Throne himself, strengthened by marriage to the daughter of Zix-Kolan, High Lord of East Idari, a very powerful ally. But Uhsa-Lata had ambitions of his own. Victory in West Idari would increase his fame, his power, and his leverage in the deadly game of Rakanese politics. As Uhsa-Lata rode his white battle horse to parade his fearsome, Red Guard and other troops down the main avenue of the capital city, throngs of citizens lined the broad streets. All citizens wore variations of the state colors of gold, beige, and red, and enthusiastically cheered the hero of the realm as he marched his troops toward yet another field of victory. The Aduma were particularly proud to be allowed to stand in this crowd as the newest free citizens.
Uhsa-Lata! Uhsa-Lata!
The general managed to smile as he basked in their genuine adulation. But halfway down the avenue, Uhsa-Lata's face went cold. His keen eyes caught a glimpse of a face that had surprised him previously. The face belonged to a man who stood out purposely, for he was the only person wearing a drab and hooded black cloak on this festive day. Uhsa-Lata squinted to be sure he was seeing clearly. Yes, he was. And it was the same man who approached Uhsa-Lata a short while ago after the general's recruitment address in the public square of the largest Aduma ghetto. It was the same man who spoke just a few sentences of a fantastic story to intrigue the general. What possible knowledge could this cloaked scoundrel possess? Who was this scoundrel and how much fire gold did he want in exchange for his fisherman's tale? Uhsa-Lata's intuition told him to proceed with great caution, but he was intrigued to know what the man knew. He'd find out eventually when war was not foremost on his mind. Down, down, down. Oto-Mani's body sank into the dark aqua-blue depths of the chilly South Sea waters. He sank while Diodi fought desperately to catch his body, to rescue his lover. The two had just passed the sacred boundary line of Rakana, and so they would not be shot at or possibly further pursued. Possibly. But the immediate threat was that although the two had only been submerged over a minute, without air, it felt like an interminable hour. Another genuine threat was the menacing teeth in the dark turned out to be sharks. Lurking by, Diodi lunged through the churning water, his braids streaming behind him as he reached desperately for Oto-Mani's wounded body. Why was his grasp so slippery? Blood drifted from the fallen sovereign in dark ribbons while he sank, unconscious and helpless, toward the rocky depths. All around them, sharks, hungry-eyed with razor-sharp teeth, circled closer. Diodi wept for the man he loved, just beyond his grasp, slipping farther away with every heartbeat. Moments away, however, Diodi recognized that it was the blood streaming out of his beloved that whetted the appetite of the nearby beasts. His swatting at them furiously only inflamed their anger and intensified their hunger. The beasts circled, and circled, and circled, and then, just when in unison they charged with horrifying jaws open, Diodi screamed and shut his eyes, certain that he and Oto-Mani were about to die. In fact, he had a grisly, sickening image of the largest of the sharks closing its horrifying jaws around the head of Oto-Mani, about to crush the skull of the man who was his heart. Please, save him, Universal One! But the attack, it never came. Eternity passed. When Diodi dared to look, the sharks hovered silently around them, their mouths closed. One even cradled Oto-Mani's head gently against its own, serving as a fishy pillow. Diodi whimpered in stunned terror. Diodi spoke in great relief, though garbled by the water. "Oh, Mother Awama! Great Mother! Thank you for your mercy! Praise you!" Not only were the sharks subdued, Diodi noticed that his lungs were not burning. He was not breathing underwater, but also, he was not suffocating from a lack of air. Oto-Mani was still unconscious, but he did not appear to be wincing with the same level of pain and suffocation as before. Somewhere within the eternal plane, the goddess replied,
As prophesied, my child, you two have passed through death. You are on the other side. Now go.
Suddenly, two enormous white sharks appeared, startling Diodi. They dipped their snouts, inviting the men to mount. One slid beneath Oto-Mani, securing his arm around its dorsal fin, while Diodi climbed onto the other. Once boarded, the sharks surged toward the island, carrying them at tremendous speed, like torpedoes. Oto-Mani remained strangely secure despite the blood streaming from his wound, while Diodi clung desperately to his shark. Within moments, the sharks plunged them into a sea cavern, illuminated by aquamarine shafts of sunlight. The creatures carried the two men into a vast grotto, its central pool as clear as Makana's great cisterns. They deposited the men beside a broad stone ledge, where Diodi lifted Oto-Mani from the shark's back and laid him down. Only then did exhaustion seize Diodi. His muscles ached from panic, exertion, and lack of air. As the shark swam away, Diodi felt a pang of regret. He had not thanked the creatures that had saved them moments after others of their kind tried to kill them. Ironically, crouching over Oto-Mani's motionless body, Diodi became frantic. He clutched his lover's shoulders and pressed close, desperately searching for the faintest breath, the smallest sign of life. But Oto-Mani lied limp beneath his hands, blood still streaking his temple and his eyes sealed shut. Sunbeams poured through the cavern opening like a distant blessing, while sharks circled silently in the turquoise water below. Yet Diodi saw none of it. His entire world narrowed to Oto-Mani's still face and the unbearable fear that the man he loves has already slipped beyond his reach. Both of them were supposed to be dead. Had they died and come back to life? They had been underwater struggling without oxygen for 8 minutes, far longer than is survivable even for men with toned, muscular bodies and good health. And of course, Oto-Mani had been seriously wounded. Finally, after Diodi beat on Oto-Mani's chest several times, "Muzi! Muzi!" Diodi flinched violently, spit up a glass worth of water, and then deeply inhaled. Diodi cried for joy. My beloved, you're alive! Praise be to all the celestial sisters and the universal one!" Oto-Mani was breathing, but blood still seeped from his head wound. His injury needed to be tended to, or it would become infected, further threatening his life. Searching the dim cave, Diodi found luminous moss and a broad white leaf beneath the blue shafts of light. Remembering his first aid training, he gathered the moss to use to treat the wound and tore off a big leaf to use as a bandage. He hurried back to Oto-Mani, praying he was not too late. Diodi knelt over Oto-Mani's still motionless body and pressed a handful of luminous green moss against his lover's bleeding right temple, desperately trying to stop the flow of blood. Diodi whispered a prayer. Please, dear goddesses, please do not take him now. Carefully, lovingly, Diodi wrapped the long white leaf around Oto-Mani's brow in order to bandage the moss in place. Then Diodi pressed a tender kiss to the head wound, as if the gesture were both a blessing and a plea. The whole moment conveyed desperation, devotion, and the fragile hope that loving care might save the life of Rakana's exiled ruler. On the moss-covered ledge, Diodi curled around the unconscious Oto-Mani as if shielding him from death. The glowing bandage cast an eerie light across Oto-Mani's bruised face as Diodi kissed his shoulder and neck through his grief. Exhausted and terrified, he clung to his lover until sleep finally overtook him. More than an hour later, Oto-Mani awoke to Diodi's aroused pressing against his buttocks as they lay spooned together. Despite his aching head, Oto-Mani wiggled his hips to wake Diodi. He said through a bemused moan, "Odi, get your prick out of my butt." Diodi stirred, overjoyed to hear his voice. "Muzi, both my heart and my prick were terrified of losing you." Laughter exploded from their bellies. It echoed through the cavern, briefly washing away the horror they had endured. Then Diodi held him tighter. "Truly, Muzi, I'm so grateful you're alive. That swim was terrifying." Oto-Mani turned and kissed Diodi deeply, releasing weeks of restrained desire. After several more hungry kisses, he sighed. "Babe, I'd love to keep tasting your mouth, but my head is pounding, I'm starving, and I badly need to cop a squat." Diodi laughed and kissed his cheek. "Come on, your majesty. Let's find you a royal toilet and see what groceries this island has to offer." Diodi helped Oto-Mani to his feet and they climbed a moss-covered staircase toward the sunlit opening above. "How did we reach this island?" Oto-Mani asked. "The last thing I remember." His voice trailed off. Though the memories pained him, Diodi recounted everything from the gunshots to the sharks in the cave. Oto-Mani had countless questions, but an assessment of any proximate danger came first. Will Tulu's forces follow us despite what Lolo said? I don't know, Diodi admitted, but after you relieve yourself and we eat, we keep moving, we must assume Tulu will cross any boundary to capture us. Once they climbed the cavern steps, they emerged to an area where they were greeted by a white sandy beach and a gorgeous orange ochre sunset. They walked down a pair of steps that led out of the cave opening to the beachfront, and Oto-Mani indicated he saw a good spot for squatting. They both relieved themselves behind a nearby rocky outcropping. Once done, they cleansed their hands and bodies using fragrant leaves as washcloths and a small natural fountain for water. Then they walked up the beach in search of edible plants and berries. After a while, Diodi said, Muzi. Yes. Don't you think Makana always seemed too perfect? They accepted us without question because they already knew who we were and considered us a threat. Oto-Mani nodded sadly. I wanted to believe in this place. At least Lolo proved himself an ally. Shooting off our shackles took incredible skill. Diodi replied, I'm grateful, but I don't trust him. Why give us the Orbani if he knew it could condemn us? Oto-Mani countered. It allowed my mother to reach us. Diodi snapped. And what good did that do? Now she'll only worry more. She and the High Priestess are old women while Ko-Toure and Uhsa-Lata control the realm. Neither man yet understood how powerful Rakana's women could be. They began to wonder about this island that was also part of the sacred zone, the Forbidden Land, but they were too preoccupied with the previous strains of their conversation to say anything more than what Diodi first offered. I hope this place is safe. Me too, replied Oto-Mani. Anyway, Odi, you might be right about the fruitless effort of my mother contacting me, but I still think that Lolo is an ally. Maybe an unreliable ally, but an ally all the same is evident from the fact he freed us. Oto-Mani continued. And praise be Mother Awama for her mercy. I still cannot fathom why those sharks didn't eat us, how we didn't drown if it wasn't for divine intervention. Diodi seconded the motion. Yes, I fully agree. Still, I'm very worried about Rhea and the baby. Somehow we must go back and save them. Absolutely. Oto-Mani was unequivocal. But let's rest and find food as we planned. Okay. At the edge of the bushes and tree line that hugged the beach, the two found a few tropical berry bushes. Famished, they rushed over to the bushes and began to ravenously pick the sour sweet fruit and greedily pop it into their mouths. They each smacked loudly, so loudly they caused each other to laugh. Their laughing soon turned into ardor. Surrounded by broad green leaves and clusters of ripening red and black fruit, they embraced tenderly in the warm golden light. Diodi cradled the back of Oto-Mani's neck and drew him into a gentle kiss. Their intertwined arms and closed eyes conveyed relief, affection and intimacy, as though they had found a quiet, private refuge after the trauma of their escape. Eventually, they collapsed beneath a small fruit tree. Oto-Mani drew Diodi into his lap, and they kissed hungrily, devouring fruit juice sweet lips, cheeks, brows, earlobes, necks, collarbones, and nipples. I love you, Oto-Mani whispered. I love you too, very much, Diodi replied. They took off their loincloths and spread them on the seagrass to lay together, smooth bare skin against smooth bare skin, manhood to manhood. Their fingers slowly explored each other's strong, gorgeous bodies with tenderness and desire. Entwined beneath the greenery, with the sea breeze cooling their skin and waves murmuring nearby, they surrendered to the relief of being alive. They stroked each other until they each burst mutually with ecstasy. Then they fell asleep in each other's arms. A short while later, from the direction of the beach, three strange voices awoke the two lovers.
Observe. I think the human beasts were copulating.
Oh, my goodness. Fascinating. I smell the evidence of...
Stand back. They may be feral and ferocious.
Before Oto-Mani and Diodi stood a gorilla, a lion, and an elephant. Each were clothed and stood erect on their hind legs like humans. The gorilla wore professorial robes with spectacles and carried a book of knowledge and a walking stick. The lion wore noble vestments and carried books of law. And the elephant wore a fine suit of silver armor and carried a rifle, a scholar, a squire, and a soldier. Oto-Mani and Diodi had already had their minds blown by seeing a talking elephant, Dem-Dem. But these three made the strange realms of Makana seem even more strange.
Now, good people, please like, comment, and subscribe to catch the next thrilling episode of Red Circles of Fire.